This video is sponsored by Clean My Mac. Google's Pixel 4 and 4 XL were officially announced last week. And since then, I've spent the last week roaming various cities taking pictures with both the Pixel 4 XL and the iPhone 11 Pro Max. So obviously that means in this video, we're gonna check out what each phone's camera has to offer. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell to get notifications whenever we share a video. So let's start off with video because this section should be pretty quick. And before some of you guys start commenting that this is an Apple biased video, I know the name is MacRumors, but I promise you we're not going to be biased towards the iPhone just because we cover Apple. But spoiler alert, the Pixel's camera for recording video is not great. For the second year in a row, it seems as if Google just focused more on photos and did the bare minimum when it comes to recording video. The front-facing camera on the Pixel 4 is an 8 megapixel sensor that's capable of shooting in 1080p, while the iPhone 11 Pro can shoot 4K 60 video on both the front and rear cameras. Here is an example of both phones' front-facing cameras. So this is the front-facing camera on the Google Pixel 4 XL and now on the iPhone 11 Pro. So I'm switching between both phones here so that you can get a better idea of what the audio sounds like, and obviously you can get a look at what the image is like. And it's super blown out here on the Google Pixel 4. These lights are so bright, and in reality, they're really not this bright. I'm not entirely sure why it does that, but it's doing that. When you look at the iPhone 11 Pro, that's a little bit more like what the actual room is like. It's a little bit brighter than it seems here in this video, but for the most part, it looks nothing like what you see here on the Pixel 4. So just something to keep in mind. And yeah, let me know what you guys think of the audio and image quality. As you can see, the concerns that I had during my recording are much more prevalent when playing back the video from the Pixel 4 on a larger screen device. The background is blown out, as you can see by the lights behind me, compared to the iPhone 11, which gives off this soft, cool light, and it looks a lot more natural. These lights behind me are not really that bright. The color profile is also very warm, especially on my face, as the Pixel 4 gave me a red skin tone and also smoothed my face out quite a bit. Front-facing camera for video on the Pixel 4, not great. The main camera on the back does get a little better here, and it still doesn't really match up well compared to the iPhone's 4K 60 frames per second recording capabilities, but it is better. Now, the Pixel 4 is capable of recording video in 4K on the rear lens, and stabilization on both smartphones is actually really good, but I do prefer the tone and the color profile a little bit more on the iPhone 11 Pro compared to the Pixel, at least when it comes to recording video with both cameras. Moving on to still photos on the front-facing camera, this is where the Pixel 4 makes a stronger comeback. I really like the wide-angle lens that's used on the Pixel 4, which can capture much more around you, and the images are sharper, especially with portrait mode. Now, you do have the ability to use a wide-angle lens on the iPhone 11 Pro, but you will need to rotate your phone into landscape mode, and I'm not sure how many people will actually know to do that or will actually have time to do that when they're trying to take a quick selfie. But I do think that the still images out of the Pixel 4 just look a little bit better. Now, this theme carries over to the back camera, especially with portrait mode on the Pixel 4. The images are sharper, and overall, the Pixel 4 does a better job at edge detection. It's not perfect, and there are certainly times where the iPhone does a better job at separating the background from the subject in the foreground, but more often than not, the results lean towards the Pixel 4, at least in its favor for portrait mode. Some examples include the rim of this glass on the Pixel 4. For some reason, the iPhone has a very hard time distinguishing the rim from the background in a picture when it's trying to do edge detection, so it pretty much always cuts off the outer back part of the glass. On the flip side, the Pixel 4 struggled to blur out the entire part of this background region here in this picture. I'm not entirely sure why, but the iPhone 11 Pro had no problems whatsoever. So like I said before, the Pixel 4 is usually better at edge detection compared to the iPhone 11 Pro, but when they both get it right, the Pixel 4's photos to me just look a little bit sharper and a little bit more vibrant overall. When it comes to standard photos, point and shoot, taking your phone out of your pocket and trying to snap a quick picture, you're not turning on fancy modes or anything, both phones are honestly a toss-up. They're pretty neck and neck. there really isn't a huge difference in quality in my opinion. It's really just gonna come down to the tone and what your preference might be. So if you prefer a cooler color profile, then the iPhone 11 Pro might be the best choice here, which is really weird because usually the iPhone's camera tends to lean towards a more neutral or even slightly warmer color profile than any other camera that I test. But it's the Pixel 4 here that produces a lot warmer pictures this year. Both phones do a great job at managing highlights and shadows, but the Pixel 4 does allow you to actually adjust the highlights and shadows via a slider in real time before you actually take a picture, which is a pretty cool feature. Overall, it's a toss-up with the standard daylight photos. I really do think it's just a matter of color temperature, like I said before. So if you prefer warm, then you'll want to go with the Pixel. And if you prefer a cooler one, then just go with the iPhone 11 Pro. The iPhone 11 Pro does feature a third camera, however, which is an ultra-wide camera that's capable of taking some pretty awesome cityscapes or photos of large groups of people, or whatever you need an ultra-wide camera for. Google decided to go the telephoto route this year with its second camera. And while I personally do not use the ultra-wide camera a lot, I'm not quite sure why Google didn't just add one anyway. A lot of major flagships or phones with this price point have added a third camera to the systems that they have, and while I do think paying some extra attention to the quality coming out of a telephoto lens has paid off for Google a little bit because this lens does look pretty good, I still think an ultra-wide angle lens should have been included no matter what. Moving on to low light photography, especially photos taken with Google's night sight feature. If we were talking about this last year with the Pixel 3, it did a fantastic job compared to every other smartphone out there, including the iPhone XS, because, well, the iPhone didn't even have a night mode at all last year. This year, Apple stepped it up and they came out with a new night mode and it just improved overall low light photography on the iPhone 11 and 11 Pro models. And it looks really, really good. In fact, some people might prefer the night mode on the 11 Pro compared to the Pixel 4. For me personally, I kind of flip back and forth. I really like how sharp and vibrant and just how bright the Pixel 4 can make a low light photo look, but I do think the 11 Pro has a much more natural look and feel to its photos. This is evident when looking at the sky in a night mode photo. The Pixel 4 blows out the highlights a little bit too much sometimes compared to the iPhone 11. In some instances, there are much more definition in the night sky. You can even see some stars on an iPhone compared to the Pixel. I do struggle a little bit on this preference, but I have to admit the iPhone 11 has really caught up to the Pixel 4, especially in low light night mode pictures. It's really hard for me to say that the Pixel 4 is the clear-cut camera champion of 2019. I do think it's capable of taking some absolutely incredible photos, but it's not consistent enough for me to say that if you want the best camera period, then go with the Pixel 4, which was something I could do last year with the Pixel 3. As far as Android phones go, I think I'm pretty comfortable in making that claim, but I'm honestly super impressed with how much of a difference a year made for Apple when it comes to just photos in general. Everything looks so much better compared to the XS on the new iPhone 11 and 11 Pro. So to sum it up, the Pixel 4 has a really good camera system, and its computational photography, something that was already really good last year, has much improved this year. But Apple did a much better job at improving their photography game, and they closed the gap so much, sometimes even surpassing some of the images that I got out of my Pixel 4. Of course, this is just my opinion, and I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comment section down below which phone you prefer in terms of its camera and the images that we get out of them. Before we end today's video, I do want to give you more information about today's sponsor, Clean My Mac X. If you updated to macOS Catalina or are thinking about doing it anytime soon, Clean My Mac X is the must-have utility for preparing you for that update. Clean My Mac X deletes system junk, unseen apps, and hidden clutter from your Mac and giving you more storage space. Clean My Mac X can also help you speed up your Mac, not only by removing all those junk files and programs from your system, but also offering optimization and maintenance features like freeing up some RAM, running maintenance scripts, etc. Clean My Mac also removes malware and adware agents and builds an interactive map of your Mac storage so that you can get all the information you need at a quick glance whenever you might need it. Also, because of macOS Catalina will not be supporting 32-bit applications any longer, which could be half of your app collection, Clean My Mac X automatically detects 32-bit apps and deletes them in the right way with all their parts and leftovers being removed from your system. And with the updater feature, you'll instantly get 64-bit replacements for your software if and when those apps are available. Click the link in the description down below to check out more information about Clean My Mac X. This has been Dan with MacRumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.